It's the deadline schools across the country have been planning for.
You have to have the money spent, because if it's still in a bucket and it's not allocated, you lose it.
The end of pandemic funding is now.
The real deadline is September 30.
That is former South Bend Community School Corporation Assistant Superintendent Karima Fowler. Her last day as CFO was Monday, but she sat down with us to talk about where the district's COVID emergency funds went.
Our goal is to use all of it, 100% of those dollars. 100% of them are allocated, and our goal is to make sure that 100% of those dollars are spent, and we're not leaving anything on the table.
This is the Indiana Department of Education's ESSER Gear dashboard. It shows how much emergency COVID funding schools in the state were allocated. You can see schools were given $2.8 billion in funding. It came in a few different rounds. Each round had its own deadline. You can see there are still $268 million in ESSER 3 funds waiting to be spent.
We were pretty strategic with our ESSER funds.
The district focused its COVID funds on one-time expenses that could create long-term improvements, help with turnaround efforts, and combat learning loss through community partnerships. Fowler says that's what most of its funds have already been spent on, and ESSER 3 is no different.
So a lot of it is just a continuation of our plan and what we had already put together.
Back to the IDOE dashboard. I've pulled up South Bend Community School Corporation here. You can see they were allocated about $94 million total in COVID emergency funds. For the most part, the district has spent all of its ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. You can see there's still about $1 million left in its ESSER 2 fund. The school corporation says that has to be liquidated by December, and Fowler says it will be. Here in ESSER 3, you can see this district still has $25 million remaining there. Fowler says the funds have been allocated and will be spent by the deadline.
Our last approval from the IDOE by way of amendment was 2 weeks ago. So we got a big approval. We were excited about that because we did a lot of work.
Let's look at another school corporation. PHM was allocated about $9.5 million total. You can see it's used all of its ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 dollars. It still has about $500,000 in ESSER 3 funds still available. A district spokesperson says 100% of those ESSER 3 funds will be spent. It has been appropriated and will be distributed by October 4th. Goshen Community Schools allocated about $12 million in COVID emergency funding. You can see it has spent all of its ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 dollars. It still has about $6.6 million in ESSER 3 remaining. Its CFO says the district has spent most of its ESSER funding and will have spent by the grant deadline. He says the delay here is with its reimbursements. Again, though, that deadline to spend isn't until December. Now, school leaders at multiple districts say the challenge will be to continue to provide for students and families with much more limited funding.
Thanks for watching. Here's another story you may like, and subscribe to the WSBT 22 YouTube channel.